Hello again, Byron here from FACEHAMMER. I thought I would take you through a couple of things. Number one is my Roge Idol conversion that I completed yesterday. And number two is a couple of Roge Idol focused Bonesplitterz list. I've used one of them before and had a massive amount of fun with it, with a kind of mixed arms Bonesplitterz list, and thought I'd share them with you. So I'll take you through the conversion first. Now this is I mean, they're all pretty chunky, but this is the original Roge Idol. He's got that kind of classic pose, one arm behind him, standing upright, one fist raised, and that's pretty good. But when looking at the model, particularly this arm here, made me think when I was playing around with it originally that perhaps there was a possibility of doing something slightly different, because just that idea of the like that arm being fist down made me think of a gorilla, and also being a fan of the Stonehorn and Thunder Tusk, which have quite a gorilla-y pose and aspect to them. I thought it'd be a cool thing to kind of try out. So if I can pull this back here, bear with me a second. There you go. Here he is in all of his glory. So what I've done with this, and I will link the Artist Opus video below where I take you through kind of the technical aspects of it and the pinning points and stuff like that more in general, is I've rotated joints and pinned them in a couple of places with regards to the legs. They're kind of hidden by the points where the bits are touching, but there's a pin going from here to here, as well as from the original leg joint. And in this one, there is a pin going from, you can probably see this one actually if I get it just about the right angle. There you go, you can see the pin in silhouette there. There's a pin going from this piece to this piece, as well as from this piece to the original joint. So I did the legs first, kind of kept him tilted forwards, and then with a little bit of repositioning, I took this arm, and on people's recommendations, put it out to the public. They said that arm down looked a bit better and a bit more natural, even if it is a bit less dramatic, which I think I agree with. And then this one, this only had one option really, and that was for it to be kind of gorilla fisted down into the floor. So I think it's a really, really effective conversion, and especially when you've got a model as unsubtle and attention grabbing as the Roge Idol. If you have multiple of them in exactly the same pose, I think you've got to do. It's a nice thing to be able to kind of make them look like not just clones of each other. So there's some nice stuff about repetition with infantry in particular, and there can be with large models too, but having three guys with the left arm down and the right arm up didn't hugely appeal to me from a visual perspective. So I'm quite pleased that I managed to do something different. This guy's also going to be easier to transport because he's not quite as tall and he's more tucked in than the other one. He's an even more blocky version. So there's the two poses, really pleased with those, and yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to paint, and by Forge World standards especially, it's a real pleasure to build as well, because it doesn't matter what you do with the Roge Idol, and if anything goes wrong, it is particularly easy to fix. So let's pop him to the side, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the builds that I have ran with the Roge Idol in the past. I had kind of mixed success with the first of these builds. Let's see if I can get it down here, and let's re-angle this. This is for mine. I'll see if I can get Les to pop up a non-broken tablet at the side of the screen while I take you through this. So the first one is a very mixed arms approach to the Bonesplitterz. Let me go here. So this is a mixed arms list. It's using a formation. We've got the Cunning Ruck in there, which is nowhere near as powerful as it used to be, but still has some it's not as flexible as it used to be. You can only really use it for shooting, but I think it's a nice way to kind of take your drops to a level where you might be competing with some people. Not anyone who's gone balls out 4 drops or less, 3 drops or less, but basically all of your battle line and the Savage Big Boss go into the Cunning Ruck. So that leaves you with the Roge Idol, the Stabbers, and 2 Warlocks and 2 Wizards. So you end up with a 7-drop army or a 6-drop army, kind of depending what you do, fiddling around with Wizards, which is enough to kind of compete with a lot of people. 7, 8, 9 drops are pretty common, so you're at the lower end of that, which can give you a chance for taking first turn or giving it away. This is in Drakfoot, which is the allegiance where you can ignore people's after saves. which is really useful facing Fire Slayers or Daughters or something like that, and you are really going to need help against them. And the idea with this is you've got actually a pretty varied and powerful magic phase. The spell lore for Bonesplitterz is fantastic, but they're just not particularly amazing at casting spells. You don't get a lot of bonuses to cast or stuff like that. So part of what I have kind of made the most of in here is the Roge Idol gives you +1 to cast, which makes a really big difference. Then there's a lot of stuff to do with magical traits on the like kind of spread throughout the army. So we've made a use of a lot of the spells. The most important ones I've doubled down on. So for me, that is really Breath of Gorkamorka is incredibly important, because you want to be you want to be doubling the move for something. When you've got a 10-inch move Roge Idol, that is a really big deal. I've also got chromatic cogs in here, and again, it's all about getting into your opponent as fast as possible. Bonesplitterz, half your army gets to make a 4-inch move before the game starts, and with this many drops in the army, you can move 4 units forwards. Now, one of them can be your Wergog Prophet, and you've got a couple of options there. His signature spell is basically like it's a mortal wound for everyone in the unit on a 6+, but if you get a casting value of 10 or greater, and that can be including bonuses, his +1 to cast from his command trait, his +1 to cast from his from his artifact, his +1 to cast from the Roge Idol, you can get quite a few bonuses in there. And if you get it on a 10+, then it does a mortal wound to everyone in the unit on a 4+. It's range 24, and with the pre-game move, you can actually get in range with him. So it's quite a nice way to catch people out, and the army does need some help dealing with hordes. So that's a really nice one. And then you've got a couple of different ways to get in there. The spells that are the most important to me are the movement. The movement is key in this army. You need to be getting into people, and particularly when you've got access to the big stabbers. If they make a pre-game move, they have run and charge naturally. You get cogs up, so they run +2 inches, and they charge +2 inches, and you can give them the spell which kind of buffs all of your abilities, which also gives them a little charge bonus from getting the plus to hit. Can't remember what spell that is. That is Brutal Beast Spirits. Brutal Beast Spirits is like your damagey one, which I've got on the Maniac Weird Knob. So you do get to re-roll one of his spells once a game, which is the reason for having it on him. The entire army kind of, if you take the first turn, for example, your Roge Idol would move forwards, one of your units of Arrow Boys would move forwards, maybe you take the Prophet forwards for his damage spell, and with the points going up of various things in the list, I did used to have the terrain piece that you can cast, the the one that gives you +1 to cast, and extra range of 6, but you just can't fit in the vortex anymore. So there's no Balewind in here, but your units still move forwards, and then you've got a really good chance of getting off a charge with the Roge Idol, with the big stabbers even, and it's all about kind of holding your opponent at bay with this big chunky model who hopefully has got +1 to his save from one of the War Docs. You can get +1 to cast from one of the War Docs by doing a dance as well. So there's a lot of variation in here, and I think it's a really good way to use this guy as a key piece, but also have quite a lot of stuff going on. The big stabbers are great fun to play with as well.
FACEHAMMER objective markers are available for pre-order now. Click the link in the description below and order them from Element Games.
If you want to take 2 of him, your list starts getting slightly more restricted. So here we've not got a formation in there, we've still got cogs in there, which is, especially when you've got 2 of these guys, you really want them to be going into people. And I think with this, you would probably, just go, there's a really good prospect to go with Bone Grins, and the reason for that is people can't retreat from you. So the idea behind this is to get into people pretty hard and stop them from retreating. Also, you've got a couple of War Docs in there as well as the Prophet, and with a large block of normal Savage Orcs, they're not shooters or anything, you can give them +1 to their save, and you can also give them +1 to their save from a spell. So I've not quite worked out the spell selection in this, but I do think that getting Cunning Bee Spirits in there, which is the 5th spell off their list, it's a really good way to give your Savage Orc unit +2 to their save, which in combat makes them slightly more of a resilient prospect. They've got 2 wounds each. They don't hit crazily hard, but they're not too weak either. And obviously, if you've got a couple of Rogue Idols kicking about, then I think the idea with this is to shove the Rogue Idol into people, pin them, stop them from being able to run away, force them to flee from you, keep this guy alive for as long as possible. If you're feeling ballsy, you can run the War Ducks up the field really aggressively. You can use the pre-game move on them as well, and that'll keep them behind the Rogue Idols. And then if you win the priority in the next hero phase, you can actually heal up the Idols. And they're pretty resilient models, the Idols, so putting back D3 wounds on them is a really, really good prospect. Like I said, 30 Savage Orcs in a block are actually way more survivable than you think, and you've still got the big stabbers in here. So there's actually quite a lot of melee damage output in this list, and I think with the Rogue Idols being such a key focal piece for people, they don't realise that 4 big stabbers is so much damage. They do mortal wounds, they've got a 3-inch range, they can run and charge, you've got cogs, you've got the double movement spell. There is a lot that you can do within this list with a pre-game move and stuff like that to kind of get stuff where you need to at the beginning of the game. After that, you're reliant on your spell and run moves and using your command points and stuff like that. But this one is kind of like the middle ground, not going too extreme. If you want to go completely extreme, then here you go. So this is kind of the the full balls deep, balls to the wall approach to taking Rogue Idols. So you've got 3 Rogue Idols in there, and then you've got the Kopruck, which is a kind of a Wardock and Morboys formation. So actually, even though this list has got 3 Rogue Idols, 3 battle line units, and 2 casters, these are all 1-drop, and then the Rogue Idols are 3 more. So it's a 4-drop list. This is a very good chance that you could actually go first with this. I think that gives you a couple of interesting prospects. You could go Drakfoot for negating saves. I really like how each of the kind of the master clans, or however you'd put them, in the Bonesplitterz are viable. You could go Drakfoot for negating people's saves. You could go vanilla Bonesplitterz, and then you could take the trait on your general that allows you to do a 7-inch pre-game move rather than a 4-inch pre-game move, which gets you really up in people's grill. Or again, you could go for Bone Grins and stop people from running away from you, which when you've got 3 Rogue Idols, if the 3 Rogue Idols have moved forwards at the start of the game and you've got cogs up and you've got into people, not being able to run away could really hold people up. And the obvious weakness of this list is these guys. Like, you've got some really tough wounds in your Rogue Idols, but you've only got 2 characters and you've only got 3 units of 2 wound, not particularly well resilient Morbies to do all of your standing on objectives, unless it's like Behemoth based or something like that. So you need to be pinning people with the Rogue Idols and keeping them in the same place. So for that reason, I think there's a really viable argument for taking it as Bone Grins and pinning people, and then just beating them up for as long as possible with these guys, lasting as long as possible with those, maybe even throwing your Warlocks under the bus, whatever it is. And you're going to have to really do a lot of work with these poor weak 30 Savage Orc Morboys to kind of make it work. Your spell selection is quite interesting in that you've got to go for the movement, and then I guess the formation gives you access to the breath weapon spell that normally you'd only have on your 160 point wizard, even with a Warlock, which is an amazing option. So that gives you a way to kind of target a horde. And like I said, with the trick at the start of the game of moving your Warlock 4 inches forward, it's quite difficult for people to stay 28 inches out of range with a large unit from you. And if they're doing that, they're standing so far back that they're probably taking themselves out the first turn of the game, or first and second turn out of the game, quite significantly. So I think there's a lot of interesting options in these. This one, like you're sticking to a meme so hard that it is going to be harder to do well in tournaments. These two, I think, are both super viable tournament lists. They're lists that you'd have to try pretty hard to get a 4-on-1 out of. They're probably looking more in the 3 wins kind of spectrum, but they've got quite a lot of tricks. They've got a lot of options with your spells, and particularly if you can use your War Docs and your spells to pump up the save under the Savage Oryx, make a Roge Idol a 2+ save monster, something like that, then you've really got quite a scary, resilient unit that pumps out a lot of damage for people. The plus to cast from being within range of these guys is absolutely something you should use to your advantage, because one of the weaknesses of the books, like I said, is you don't get bonuses very easily. So your War Docs dancing to give you +1 to cast, him giving you +1 to cast, any terrain giving you +1 to cast from arcanes, that is a really, really big deal. One of the negatives of cogs is people using it to charge, to move and charge around you. If you've pinned someone, so if you have gone Bone Grins, then I think cogs is way less of a potential negative than it would be otherwise. This original list here that I took to Blood and Glory last year, I found myself not casting cogs fairly frequently because I didn't want to give my opponents the bonus as well as myself. So it was only in really specific situations where I definitely needed to get the move on the big stabbers. Sometimes I was casting it and just using it to get an extra spell off my wizard and to give him reroll saves, particularly if he's on the Balewind Vortex, he gets +1 to a save anyway, so it actually made the Wargog Prophet quite resilient. He's got some, he's -1 to be hit in combat and some other stuff as well, gets +1 for being on the Balewind, and that could be rerollable. So he ended up being, I think he's a 6 wound hero, so he ended up being a 6 wound hero with a 4-up rerollable save, which is quite good for a wizard. Then he's got his 6-up after save. This list was amazing fun. It could compete in most scenarios quite effectively, and it looks great on the table. The big stabbers are amazing fun to use, and that's why they're kind of a recurring theme in my other lists. But I hope you find that useful. If any of you have any questions on the Bonesplitterz or any list that you've been running that you've had particularly good fun with, or they've been particularly successful, I think there's actually some very technical lists out there where you don't have any rogue idols, don't have any big guys, and you just use your infantry to the best of your ability, and a lot of board control, and you're kind of making the most of the fact that you actually have quite a lot of cheap wounds there. They're just not very resilient wounds. But yeah, they're a really rewarding army to play with. I think the Orruk Warclans book in general is it's got probably the highest level internal balance that I've seen out of any book. It's kind of like, I guess the Ogre Moor Tribes book was similar actually. There's a lot of options in there, and quite a lot of them are valuable. You could be putting some cavalry in there. The Boar Boys are great, but yeah, let me know your thoughts on the 3 lists that I've outlined on my conversion. If you've got any questions about that, by all means ask, and do check out the Artis Opus video that will link below this if you want to see kind of the technical aspects of how I built and paint the model. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe. Let us know suggestions of future videos, and if you want me to go more in depth in anything from this, then put it in the comments and I will be sure to see it in a future video. Cheers.